There was actually a couple of hours where we thought the club was gone.
Darkest moment of my life. I remember we were setting up for a game and the phone call came in saying it was done and it was just numb.
It was just soul crushing.
I said to him, if this thing goes tits up in the morning, that's me done with the League of Ireland, that's me done with football.
And the news had broken through about the High Court, and he just started bawling his eyes out, and I remember thinking, there's no little child that should have to do that over their football club.
The worst thing about all that period was there was a complete helplessness. There was nothing we could do to change anything that was happening.
There's reason to believe that this is the biggest club in the country. I can't put into words what the club means, it just means that much. It's pretty much everything. It dictates my weekend.
We're huge into sports in the city and county, like that's just so passionate amongst the people.
For the community that we have, it's extremely important. For me personally, it represents family and friends and a great passion that has always been in my family.
This club represents the city, and for a supporter like me, that's what the football club is. It's a badge of honour for where you're from.
It's the greatest city in the world. It's unique, it's magic.
You can walk the streets and you've got the crest and somebody will come and go, hi. You have no notion who they are, but you're connected because there's a crest.
11 years ago, this club was essentially supporter owned. We had the ideal dream owner.
A gentleman by the name of Brian Lennox. We used to sing Who Needs Abramovich because Brian sells lots of chips. He had a local chip shop and he ran the club in a very sustainable fashion.
The club had a very successful period in the mid-2000s.
We've been in Europe every year for 5 or 6 years. We'd won through 2 and 3 rounds in Europe, and it had created a kind of an atmosphere and a feeling around the club that it was something special and we were going somewhere.
The thinking was actually, well, what happens after Brian? The supporters were already thinking about the future and what might happen down the road.
He ultimately sold the club on to a man who claimed to be a billionaire.
He put the club into an investment fund.
Who told us that he's going to build a 40,000-seater stadium here in Cork.
They started to increase the wage budget. You know, you didn't see an increase in gates.
I suppose everything just, went overboard. Expenses, wages.
Naturally, the economy went wallop.
We discovered 1.3 million had been run up in a year in debt.
Wages weren't being paid. It's not like, you've got Wayne Rooney and he's got loads of money and he isn't being paid. We were going through Christmas and we knew that our players don't have any money. Do you know what I mean? They're struggling to survive, so that's horrible as a supporter.
I remember one particular game where the Trust were protesting against the owner and I was inside the gate doing my job, albeit not getting paid for it, and most of my friends who had grown up with going to games were outside across the road protesting. And I felt very much that I was on the wrong side of the fence then.
It was around then that Forest actually, stepped up a gear, registered with the Register of Friendly Societies.
Forest, which is Friends of the Rebel Army Society. The Rebel Army was a nickname the club and the fans had from years back.
Forest is also the Irish language word, which means working together. We had it set up by 2008, essentially ready to go.
The club was put into receivership in 2009.
In the end, the company that owned the club got wound up.
There was one very famous letter sent by a teacher who was a member of our board as well.
She actually wrote a letter to the judge explaining what it meant.
She told her that it was more than a football club, explaining how you have to give us a chance.
And the judge was taken by that.
The judge in charge of the case at the time actually set, I believe, a new precedent in Irish law because the judge was adamant that the club had a community function.
At the last minute, the supporters rallied together to save the club and take it over.
We said, okay, we're going to go it on our own. The supporters are going to run this. Okay, that means we're relegated to the first division, but we have our football club.
Because we had everything already there when times were good, we were able to run with it as soon as things started going a little bit rough. And I think because of that, people were given this very clear plan.
So we got notice in 2010, 11 days before the season was due to start, that yes, we are the people who are now running Cork City Football Club.
Hearing in that it pulled through and the fans owned the club, it was the happiest, I can honestly say, the happiest they've been in a long time.
It's that sort of, that's underlying stability all the time that you just feel you don't have to worry about it. And we had so many years of constantly worrying.
Just to see how far it's come as well, and with the financial troubles and Forest taking over, it's really kind of heartwarming knowing that the club is in the right hands. The board are fans, so they know what they're doing and it's all for the good of the club.
You can imagine 11 days, trying to get 11 players on the pitch in 11 days is quite difficult. We did it.
We put a team together in 2010 for our first league match in the first division at that time to play Derry away, and we got a historic 1-1 draw up there with a team of kids.
We couldn't believe it, but the work in those 11 days, we'll never forget.
We were a member of Supporters Direct, but it was kind of in 2010 when we had taken over the football club that we started having more interaction with them. And at that stage, you know, they were able to help us with a peer network of people who had either been or were going through the same problems.
It's mainly run by volunteers. We obviously have a full-time professional manager, we have a full-time professional CEO and full-time professional administrative staff. Other than that, we're all volunteers. We're doing this because we enjoy it, because we love it, and we're getting a lot back from it. You see these banners that guys have put their blood into. They've spent hours and hours putting them together.
If anyone else who didn't support a football club saw what we get up to, like we spent last Saturday fucking in a warehouse sewing a crowd cover. Like if you said to anyone else, these are a group of lads in their 20s and they spent a day sewing and painting in a fucking warehouse, they think you're absolutely insane. But it's what we do, it's our passion.
They don't ask for anything from the club helps them out where it can. But these guys put their lives into this, and it gives real colour and atmosphere on match night particularly.
The secret to a fan-owned club is simple. You get a manager to run the football and you bring someone into the office to run the football club. What we try and do is set out the foundations and the ethos and the guidelines, the higher level stuff.
We're transparent, we have meetings regularly, we inform our members what's happening. We as a board are only stewards for the time that we're there.
We provide employment, we provide ancillary employment. We have printers and security and shops and fast food outlets, and that's just on match night. We have all what else happens as well outside of all that. So we have a very, very big place in the community.
We have very strong links with the local universities, the local colleges, very strong links with local football academies.
It's a very different entity with the supporters in charge.
The community is really what it's all about and what changed when supporters took over, because we felt very strongly that the community owns the club. It doesn't matter how rich you are, if you've no supporters, you've no football club.
We just are not happy with winning a couple of trophies and making a profit. That's not what we're about. Yes, we love trophies and we love to make a profit, but we want the best stadiums, we want a long-term home for the club, we want the ground to be full every week, we want all the businesses on board, we want the businesses to see Cork City as a great opportunity to be involved in.
Results don't matter. I mean, you're always going to support your football club no matter what. But as a fan who came from the point of view of we had no football club, we weren't very good, we were in the first division, like if you saw some of the grounds in the first division, it's this without the stands. It's just a field, and it was that shit. And to get to the point where you've gone through all that, you've won the first division, you've kind of solidified your place in the Premier Division, and then you've moved on to the point where we nearly won the league last year, and now we're going into Europe. It is a great story.
To be back in Europe is a real red letter day for Cork City and for Forest particularly.
Being able to play in Europe is something you aim as a kid, you want to do. Like you see obviously Champions League on the telly, you see Europa League on the telly, and you're thinking, geez, I'd love to put my wits up against the best players in the world. And obviously when you get into the Europa League, you get to do that.
This is Europe. This is being back in Europe. This is being on the big stage. I just think it adds an extra buzz, another element to the fact that we've just gone one step up again, and it's where we need to be.
6 years ago, there was a couple of us in the High Court, you know, thinking we were going out of football. Like 5 years ago, we took 13 players to an away match because that's all we had. I mean, I always knew someday we'd get back to this level. I was confident of that, but it's come sooner than I expected.
Cork City Football Club is bigger now than it ever has been, and it's down to the marketing behind the club, it's down to the fans, it's down to the lads behind the scenes. It's incredible.
Fantastic, vibrant feeling towards the club around the city and county, and you know, we have fantastic support, and look, I suppose long may it continue.
It's now all about the football. It's not even a case of like, I don't go around the place saying, oh, I own a football club, because you know, that's not part of it. But just for me as a fan who has gone through all the shite with bad owners, for me knowing that my club will never be in that situation again because it's fan owned is fantastic. If you go to a music festival and you're in amongst a lot of people who like a certain band, you can't really say, oh, I'm from Cork and this is great. When you're in a football environment, the football club is representing where you're from. So therefore you can go out, you can sing Fuck the Dubs and it actually means something. It's us against them, do you know what I mean? And that's what a football club does. It gives you a vehicle, I suppose, to express the love for the place that you're from.